All right, what's happening? Back on the Caesar grind with Book 5, Chapter 26 of De Bello Gallico. And there's a lot of complex grammar happening, so. In caricature, in around Diebus XV in around 15 days. In this quibus is referring to the Diebus. You can say in which or since, whichever. And then we have this impersonal verb here. Literally, it has come, but we're gonna just translate it as a they. I'm not a fan of the impersonal verbs, but whatever. In which they came into the wintry camp, the Hibernas, the wintry camp. All right, initium, the beginning. All right, and I'm going to put a long mark here because it's fourth declension genitive singular, so repentini is modifying it, and possibly defectionis, the beginning of a sudden uproar. All right, and revolt, defectionis, revolt. All right, ortum s, this guy's deponent from orior. Rose, from. Yeah, I'll write this a little better. Ambiorix. And Catawolcus. So the qui here is going to those guys. So who, and again, if you haven't looked ahead, we're writing this sentence all the way down to the third stanza section of this. So wait, who, when. All right, this, you could go with like had been near or had met. And that's going to take the dative, which is why Sabino, Kataque are in the dative. All right, ad fines, at the borders. Of their own kingdom. And comporta wissa, and had carried both of these pluperfect subjunctive, had carried grain into the wintry camp. So the impulsi here is going with them. And so again, we're taking on this a very wild ride. Who, when all this has happened, and it's impulsi is a perfect passive participle, who, having been kind of compelled, instigated, promoted, influenced strongly by the messengers of that eye guy, Deutiomaris. The Trevery. Alright, so having been compelled by the messengers of Idiomaris the Trevery, they incited Suos, Inigo, Weiros, incited their own men. And we got a nice little Ablet of Absolute happening here. And whoever thought a word like Lignatoribus would ever come up. And with the woodcutters, having been overwhelmed suddenly, the subito is suddenly, they came with a Magnumana with a great band. Alright, and then we've got this supine here. And when you have a verb of motion, like venio to come, it's going to denote purpose to attack the camp. Alright, so now we got the Cum Nostri going with the weary here. When our men, and then we've got those essays again. When our men had seized their weapons, Clariter quickly, and had ascended alright, the rampart, the wallum, and another Ablet of Absolute, kind of sort of going there, but you can kind of include the Una ex parte in it with the Spanish cavalry. Having been sent out. Alright, and then the Una ex parte from one part. Alright, so when all this is happening, the equestri alright, so the equestri, alright, so they had been superior. All right, in the cavalry battle. All right, and sometimes some people say the cavalry had been superior in the battle. It depends on if you're taking it as a noun or adjective. But another ablative absolute with the situation having been despaired of, all right, so these people are on the Roman side. The hostes, the enemies, led their own suos Ray back ab oppugnatione from the attack. Okay, so the foreigners, well, it's kind of odd to call them foreigners because this is actually their land, but Ambiorix and Catavolcus, they lead their group against the Romans to try to catch them off guard. That doesn't work out very well for them. So, Tum then conclamoverant, they shouted, Suamore, from their own custom. Uti, that, and this is just another form of ut to set up this indirect command. Aliqui, that's some of Nostris, some of our men. Alright. That's some of our men. Come forth. Alright, to a colloquium or conversation. Maybe even a conference. And then we're setting up this indirect statement. That say, referring back to them, that they have, and then the qua is kind of the direct object, things which wellunt they wish, degrade, to talk, de re communi, about a common affair, a common situation. With which they were hoping, going into an indirect statement within an indirect statement within a relative clause, or hoping that the disputes posse could, and then you have the passive infinitive with minui, present passive infinitive. Be lessened or be diminished. All right, so a lot of complex things going on. You may want to rewind this and, take all the grammar. In that last little section, the Tum part, it's common that he has an indirect command followed by indirect statements. And we've seen that before. Some of the other grammar can be a little bit tricky, so take your time with it.